Here is a tutorial for how I made this birthday card. I basically combined several ideas from Pinterest, so I'll try to find the creators on here and tag them in the caption. So to start with, I created the base of the box by ruling up 9 squares on some card paper. I cut out 3 of the corner squares, and then on the 4th corner square I only cut one side because eventually that will create a standing corner that looks like this. Then I cut out a circle for the cake base and stuck it down in the center square with some double-sided sticky tape. Next, I cut out the bottom layer of the cake, overlapped the ends and stuck them together to make a circle. And I stuck it down to the base with some tape, making sure the seam was at the back of the card where the standing corner will be. I then made the dripping icing by cutting out a squiggly pattern like you see here, lined it with the top of the cake layer and stuck it down with some double-sided sticky tape. I also really recommend a more flexible card paper for this part. Next, I cut out a circle that is slightly bigger than the bottom layer of the cake, and again using tape I stuck half the tape to the circle and then the other half to the inside of the cake. Warning, this whole process is a little finicky and there's probably an easier way to do it, but that's just how I did it. Then I repeated the same process for the top layer of the cake, but using smaller measurements. Oh, and this time around I remembered to trace around the cake layer before sticking it down so I could use that as a guide for the top of the icing. And again made the dripping icing, and by the way, the line that I drew down first was just to represent the height of the cake layer to give me some kind of reference on how big to make the drips. Then I cut out the circle I just traced and stuck that on top. Next, I cut out a small candle and flame and stuck them together with sticky tape. Then using 2 small pieces of sticky tape, I stuck the front and back of the candle to the cake. Next, I just cut out some blue and yellow sprinkles and glued it onto the cake. Next, we're going to start decorating the standing corner. So I made birthday banners by cutting these squares diagonally in half. I then arranged the banners like this so they could spell out Happy B-Day. Now on the other side of the standing corner, we're going to make a flower bouquet. So I used some pink sticky note paper because it was light and flexible. I cut out 2 rectangles, folded them twice and cut out a tulip shape, and then folded the petals in half. Next, I linked the petals together by gluing the side of one petal to the side of another petal and continued until I had glued about 7 to 8 petals together. So it should start to look something like this. Then I cut out a thin green rectangle and glued it to the outside petals from the ends of either side of the link and repeated this process 4 more times. To make things easier, I then stuck the bases of the stems together with some sticky tape. Next, I folded this tissue paper in half, placed the flowers in the middle and wrapped the tissue paper around it to look like a bouquet. I then tied a bow around it and secured it with some sticky tape on the back. Then I cut a square, stuck the bouquet onto it and then stuck it onto the other standing corner. Using double-sided sticky tape, I then stuck the blank square behind the banner square to create our standing corner. Now we're on to the envelope square. So I cut out these 3 squares and then cut the outer squares diagonally in half like so. I then made a crease along the lines so they come together like this. Then I placed double-sided sticky tape on the inside of this outer triangle. And then to seal the bottom of the envelope, I just used small pieces of sticky tape all the way along. So once that was done, I stuck it onto the square and placed a card inside, which is where you can write a birthday message. Next, we're making the photo board. So I cut out this square with rectangles on either side, made a crease along the lines, stuck some ribbon along the back of it, and then stuck that down onto the square. And of course, I would then stick some photos in it. Now onto the lid of the box. So I cut out this square, which includes the top of the lid and the sides of the lid. And then on each small corner square, I cut along just one of the lines. And then made creases along every line so it looks something like this. Using double-sided sticky tape, I then stuck down each corner square to the inside of the lid, like you can see here. Now it's time to decorate the lid. So I stuck down these 2 longer white rectangles on top, then stuck down the smaller rectangles on the sides of the lid, making sure they lined up so it looks like ribbon. Lastly, we're going to make a bow using white printing paper. So I cut out a square and drew 2 diagonal lines. I cut along these lines up until 1 centimeter from the center point. Next, I drew a curved line down 2 opposite sides and cut along it. It should look like this. I then made these cutouts along the top and bottom, as you can see in the video, both about 1 centimeter wide. I then placed some glue down in the center and stuck down all 4 corners of the sides. I also added a little tape to secure it better. Next, I turned it around, placed some glue down in the center and folded the 2 bottom pieces up and then folded them back down like this. Lastly, I took the top center piece and wrapped it around and stuck it to the back of the bow with some double-sided sticky tape and then just cut off any excess paper. Once the bow was done, I then stuck it to the center of the lid. And we are done. It turned out so cute, such a sweet way to make someone feel loved on their birthday. Again, I'll tag any of the creators I got inspo from in the caption, and if you make this, I would love to see it.